What started off as a cold day has turned into a great day for rugby. Welcome to Jacksonville for our broadcast of Florida College Rugby as the Florida Atlantic Owls take on the North Florida Deadbirds. As we prepare to kick off, it's time to go over the starting lineup for both teams. First for Florida Atlantic. Number 1, Ian Walsh. Number 2, Connor Gilks. Number 3, Patrick Consbrook. Number 4, Dylan Earp. Number 5, Jonathan Adcock. Number 6, Mark Findley. Number 7, Carson Stryker. Number 8, Jacob Johnson. Number 9, Mike Turney. Number 10, Alexander DeMonts. Number 11, Mike Steffens. Number 12, Zach Kirstein. Number 13, Pedro Velez. Number 14, Charlie Holder. And number 15, Jared Powell. And the starters for the North Florida Deadbirds. Number 1, Evan Brown. Number 2, Christopher Friend. Number 3, Gabe Gonzalez. Number 4, Fort Setzer. Number 5, Hayden Wilhelm. Number 6, Mr. Queef. Number 7, Connor Kurak. Number 8, Wyatt Dodd. Number 9, Dylan Nuremberg. Number 10, Matt Bueller Ellis. Number 11, Desmond the Durag Des Ford Green. Number 12, Lee Setzer. Number 13, Jason Martin. Number 14, Caleb Griffith. And number 15, Eli Reynolds. The serve for today's game from the Florida Rugby Conference is Mr. Bruce Swallow, who also served the last game that was held on this field between UNF and UCF. Should be an exciting game today as we take a look at the new sideline whisper. The unknown sideline whisper is expecting this to be a 28-14 victory for FAU and cited that some players to look out for on UNF. Number 8, Wyatt Dodd, who scored 2 tries, one off of a dump pass that was intercepted by him and run back. He shook off a couple defenders to making it into the try zone. And then on a kickoff, he just took the ball and ran. And then, of course, some players to note on Florida Atlantic. We have number 14, Charlie Holder, and number 1, Ian Walsh. But all the players today are very important to this game, along with the Sir, and we're getting ready for an exciting matchup. North Florida versus FAU coming up. Once again, welcome to our broadcast of the Florida Atlantic Owls taking on the North Florida Deadbirds here in Jacksonville. Both teams the bottom of the FCC men's standings. FAU number 6 and UNF number 7. Both teams looking to change their fortunes with this game. Referee asking both captains if they are ready to kick off. And here comes the whistle. And it's game time from Duval. Ball must travel 10 yards. And it is caught by number 4, Fort Setzer. North Florida quickly taking it. Going to operate from that specific area. And now they're going to send it down to their backs. Taken by Ford's brother, Lee Setzer. Sending it back to Ford. A very Setzer start to this game. The 9, Mr. Dillon, operating and controlling the game to start off. North Florida taking it down their backs again. Late pass, and we're going to get a whistle. And the ball was passed forward. It looked like it came off the hands of Jason Martin, who attempted to dump it last minute. And the sir is going to say that it went forward. It is going to be a scrum down for Florida Atlantic. The hooker for Florida Atlantic is number 2, Connor Gilks. I apologize if I mispronounce any of their names. And the 9 putting the ball in is Mike Turney. Ball quickly won by Florida Atlantic. They're sending it down to their backs. Number 12, Zach Kirsten, very quickly trying to break off a tackle, but unable to get there. And Florida Atlantic quickly sending it to their forwards now. Most recently taken by number 3, Patrick Consbrook. Attempted jackal. And no good. It looked like someone else came around the side, and now ball came loose, taken by North Florida, and number 1, Evan Brown, quickly trying to trot his way. Bad support by North Florida, but they're quick to get to it. Matthew Bueller dumps it off to, and we're going to hear a whistle. There was a whistle before number 12, Lee Setzer, could bring it back, and we're going to have a penalty against North Florida. Let's see if they kick for touch now. Florida Atlantic could elect to take a line out. And the ball is in the hands of their 10, Alexander DeMons. And no, they're going to send it straight to their forwards with number 3, Patrick Consbrook. Taken by number 6, Mark Findley. And the balls, for a minute, looked like it came out of the ruck, but they quickly secured it. Florida Atlantic now sending it down to their backs, quickly met. Number 12, Zach Kirstein, quickly met by Jason Martin of North Florida. Back to the forwards, and number 2, Connor Gilks, just took a while to get down. North Florida really needs to start getting lower on these tackles. We've seen it as an issue last week, and I know they've been practicing it, but they really need to get lower in order to, they need to get lower. And the ball is loose, picked up, no, not picked up, and who's going to fall on it? We're going to hear a whistle from the sir, and it's going to be a scrum for North Florida. So I guess it was a knock-on against Florida Atlantic. That means the ball was lost forward. And it looked like Mr. Dillon, the 9 on North Florida, picked it up, but maybe it was also touched by Florida Atlantic at the same time, so there was no advantage. Scrum for North Florida. As previously said, number 9 is Dylan Nuremberg. He is the scrum half, and the hooker is number 2, Christopher Friend. Appears to be a stalemate, quick rotation, and North Florida is going to win it. Kicked by Matthew Bueller, and it goes out of bounds. And the ball almost got stuck up in the tree. Fun fact from last game, 3 times did the ball end up getting stuck in the trees. Florida Atlantic getting ready for a line out. First line out of the game for either team. And they're going to send it straight down to their number 1, who is going to be thrown out of bounds. It was a quick pass to number 1, Ian Walsh, who attempted to dance a little bit, but unfortunately was just too close to the sideline, and now it's going to be a line out for North Florida. And Christopher Friend, who I'm just going to say it had a really bad game, attempting for the line out, and it's stolen by Florida Atlantic, but we're going to get a whistle. And some extracurricular activity coming out of both teams, and it appears it is against Florida Atlantic. Maybe they didn't come up straight. And Matt Bueller kicking it off, not going to go out of bounds, and caught by number 14, Charlie Holder. Holder taking it to about the 50 before he is met by North Florida. And a ruck quickly forms. Florida Atlantic sending it down their back line. And down the right field line, I cannot see the number, but he's looking to dump it off, and he does, but he goes out of bounds before he pitched it, so it's going to be another North Florida line out. Personally, I think Chris Friend's first throw was pretty straight, but the penalty was against Florida Atlantic, so now we'll see if North Florida can recover another line out, or can recover the first line out of the game for them. And caught, was not taken by either jumper, and Florida Atlantic is going to try to run it up with number 8, Jacob Johnson, who just kept moving his feet. Number 2, Connor Gilks now with the ball, taken down, and Florida Atlantic probably looking for their backs here, which they do, and number 10, Alexander DeMonts, just quickly met. And it's stolen by North Florida. I heard release coming from the Sur. I can't imagine how they took the ball. Regardless of how, North Florida now is in possession. We're going to get a stoppage whistle, long penalty, and it's against North Florida. Question is, and yep, Florida Atlantic will elect to take the penalty kick. So if the 10, Mr. Alexander DeMonts, makes the kick, it will be 3 points on the board for Florida Atlantic. Due to the size of the field, the goalposts are behind the try zone. So it will be a little bit of a longer kick for Mr. DeMonts. Kick is up, and it is good. Just under 10 minutes into the game, 3-0 for Florida Atlantic. North Florida kicking off in a second. Kicking off for North Florida today, their fly half, number 10, Matt Bueller. Ball must travel 10 yards, which it does, and it's going to drop and picked up by North Florida. Clearly, there was a lack of communication, and Dez running it, he's going to jump, and that is a try for North Florida. The miscommunication there. Ball kicked off by North Florida, miscommunication as to who was going to receive the ball for Florida Atlantic. And then it appeared to be picked up by number 7, Connor Kurak, who very wisely pitched it to the very speedy Desmond Ford Green, Mr. Do-Rag Dez, who danced his way in for a try. It is now 5-3, and pending the conversion, 7-3. The kick to be taken once again by the 10, the fly half, Mr. Matt Bueller. You know, what makes Bueller so unusual is that he's actually a left-footed kicker. You do not see that often in rugby. The question is, will it be accurate enough to get 2 points? Kick is up and it is wide. With roughly 28:20 left to go in the game, 5-3 North Florida. One punch after another exchanged between both teams here in the past 3 minutes.
How you doing? You're sounding good.
Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks for doing this, by the way. Yeah, because I live in Tallahassee, so I don't get to see him often.
Ball is kicked off and it will be, once again, another. Florida Atlantic took the ball away. It traveled the 10 meters required and was taken by Florida Atlantic. And it appears their 9 went in on that, so they're going to take something where the forwards are just going to take the ball, and now it's going to go down the line. And a stiff arm, a great stiff arm, if I may add, by number 12, Zach Kirsten, before he's taken down. And they're going to have a man alone, number 13, Pedro Velez. I got to admit, Florida Atlantic is isolating their men, but they're getting there on time, and we're going to have a whistle by the sir. And it's going to be penalty against Florida Atlantic, North Florida ball. Mr. Matthew coming up to the ball, so we should expect a kick for touch for North Florida. Ball is kicked, and I think it's going to hit our tent. No, it came close. Spotted just inside the 50 for North Florida. Ball went out of bounds into a restricted construction area, so we're going to need to get another ball. Ball being sent from the North Florida sideline as the ball is in a restricted area. Christopher Friend to throw, sends it to the back, and it's too far. And it's going to be picked up by Florida Atlantic. 3 lineouts by North Florida, all unsuccessful. Ooh, and a tackle, and I think everyone was looking for a high tackle there, but we do not hear a whistle or an advantage from the sir as of yet. Florida Atlantic continuing with their possession, and we're going to hear a whistle. So very well may have been a penalty unless there was another penalty that occurred at that same spot. Florida Atlantic's 10, Alexander DeMonts, kicks the ball. It's going to go out of bounds right around the 10-meter line of North Florida. And we're going to see Florida Atlantic's first line out of the game. Ball is out, and that is the first successful line out for either team today. And patient again, but it's still picked up by Florida Atlantic, and we're going to hear a whistle here. And the sir is going to say that the ball was forward, so it is a knock-on against Florida Atlantic and a scrum for North Florida. Third scrum of the game so far. Both teams won 1 each. Going to take a look at the scrum here. Some pushing beforehand, and now the ball is going to be sent in, and a knock-on. Knock-on. It looked like they wanted to send it to the 8-man, Mr. Wyatt, and we're going to have a jackal. It was taken by Florida Atlantic, called advantage by the sir, but then jackled by number 11, Mr. Des, which canceled the advantage, and now we're going to play the knock-on against North Florida, so it will be a scrum for Florida Atlantic.
Let's go, boys.
Both teams have won every scrum that was in their possession. No steals yet, but we are still very early into this game. Score 5-3 in favor of North Florida. The scrum just inside their territory. Ball put in by number 9, Mike Turney. And it's going to be taken by Turney, who throws late but gets it to his 10. And now they're going to send it to their back line. And we're going to have a tackle right around midfield. And, oh, look at this. The 9, Turney, was blasted by North Florida, and it ended up in the hands of North Florida's 9, Dylan Nuremberg, and now North Florida is going to take this ball. We're going to have a whistle here, and it's going to be a knock-on call at mind. Pretty sizable crowd out to see this game. Many have traveled from Florida Atlantic to see this game in person. To all of you who couldn't, we appreciate you coming to witness this game. And oh, another miscue. And we're gonna have a scrum for the ball, and it looks like North Florida just barely falls on it. And now North Florida trying to secure its possession. And number 2, Christopher Friend, just plowing his way into Florida Atlantic territory. Connor Kurak taking the ball up, and now we're going to see it to the backs. Quick to the backs, once again to Dez. Dez dancing, and he's going to be, he almost was taken out of bounds. The ball was thrown, batted by a Florida Atlantic player, and then it went out of bounds. We're going to see what the Sir says as to who has possession. I'm assuming, though, it's going to be a Florida Atlantic line out, but it just completely judges based on what he saw, and it will be a Florida Atlantic line out right around their 22. Connor Gilks throws it and is a successful line out. Florida Atlantic nailing both of theirs, and we're going to have a kick. And oh, it is dropped forward, and whistle's going to be blown before number 13, Pedro Velez, could pick it up, and it's going to be a knock-on called against North Florida, and another scrum coming up. So far in the notes, both teams lacking communication and ball handling skills. Both coaches really need to take a note of this as we enter the back half of the season. Florida Atlantic in their own territory, but underneath the 50. I can see the ball bouncing around inside the scrum, and it's going to be taken by Florida Atlantic. And we're going to have a knock-on, not called yet, and it will be hopeful advantage for North Florida. And here goes Dez again, who kicks the ball. Oh my goodness. And it's going to be taken by Florida Atlantic, and tackling kind of high, but he lowered himself. That is an interesting call that Mr. Dez made. Obviously, I know that he was alone, but to kick it in that deep of territory, and now Florida Atlantic is trying to get as much room as possible. Question is, will they kick it back since they are so deep in their own territory? And they will. Ball is kicked, and it will be caught this time by number 15, Mr. Eli Reynolds, who runs it up to around the 22. Hearing the Sir say leave it, that means someone wasn't able to roll away, and it's going to be a penalty against Florida Atlantic. Quick pass tackled by the Owls. Number 4, Ford Setzer.
Support! Rock over!
North Florida starting off with their forwards. The Owls, great defense so far, as they're trying to keep North Florida from a second try. Isolated, almost isolated man there for the Deadbirds. And so far, once again, very sturdy defense by Florida Atlantic. Ball is passed once again to Mr. Dez, goes to the outside, and that is his second try of the game.
Woo! Hey, way to go, Deadbirds! Way to go, Deadbirds!
the Deadbirds just playing a simple game there, a little bit to the forwards, a little bit to the forwards, and then when they think they see an advantage where they have more guys than the defense does, send it to the backs. First time it didn't work. Florida Atlantic was able to adjust, slide down, but then North Florida able to get it to their speedy wing, Mr. Desmond Ford Green, Durag Des, who puts it in for a second try of the game. Des returning from injury, and so far on an impressive game. 10-3 the current score, pending the Matthew Bueller conversion. Only thing with both tries, they have been toward the out of bounds line, so Mr. Bueller has had to kick into the wind from a really nasty position. I don't know if you can hear the wind in our broadcast. If so, I apologize, but it really just shows how big of a challenge it's going to be for these 2 points. Kick is up and no good. It is short. Can I get the time here? No, not stop. Keep it going. With roughly 17 and a half minutes to go in the first half, it is 10-3 North Florida. Owl number 10, Alexander DeMonts, getting ready to kick it, and it goes 10 meters. Caught by number 2, Christopher Friend. And North Florida once again looking to add on to their 7-point lead. Number 10, Matt Bueller, kicks it into the wind, and it's going to roll before it is picked up by Florida Atlantic's number 13, Pedro Velez, right around midfield. 2 quick goes and tackles by both Florida Atlantic. Oh, but look at this. Number 6, Mark Finley, picking up his legs to gain a few extra meters before it is passed and skipped.
Let's go, Deadbirds!
And we got a man with a horn on the sideline, was not ready for that. Once again, a really ruckus crowd here for both teams, Deadbird and Owl alike. Many traveling up from Boca to attend this game. And we're going to hear a whistle from the Sir. Trying to see what the penalty or scrum or what, and it will be a scrum, and it appears it will be a Florida Atlantic Owl scrum. Once again, both teams dominating in the scrum. They have won every scrum that was to them, no steals yet. North Florida pushing, but not enough, as the Owls will take it down to their backs.
Come into him, smash up! Come into him!
Number 15, Jared Powell, dancing around, trying to look for an open lane, but unable to do so. But it gets them inside North Florida territory. Forward game for Florida Atlantic has not produced much. My mistake, and here goes number 2, Connor Gilks, for a few yards. But so far, it looks like North Florida is meeting the defense. Florida Atlantic taking it to their weak side, thinking there was something there. Either that or they're looking to scrunch North Florida's defense in it. It looks like there is not many people in the area, but the ball goes forward and it is picked up, and we're going to hear a whistle and a stoppage. It will be... It is a knock-on on a knock-on. It appeared to be a knock-on on a knock-on. So Florida Atlantic knocked it on first. It would have been advantage for North Florida, but North Florida knocked it on. So now it's a Deadbird scrum off of the first knock-on. Mr. Dillon to put it in, hoping to get North Florida number 2, Christopher Friend. We're going to get a whistle here Once again, the scrum is the most famous but also one of the most dangerous parts of this game, so it is important for the SIR to make sure that the scrum is being handled out fairly, safely, and intelligently. And there's anyone in there that doesn't know what they're doing, they need to point it out and say, hey, I need help. Second attempt at this scrum. Not supposed to push until the ball comes out, and look at this. The 9 for the Owls, Mike Turney, attempted to take the ball early, pushing North Florida's number 9, Dylan Nurnberg, out of the way, and it was picked up by number 8, Wyatt Dodd, and we're going to hear a whistle. It is a penalty against the Owls, and Matt Bueller has the ball looking to kick it out of bounds for the line out. Kick is up, and it will go out. Ball goes out just outside their own 50 and into Florida Atlantic territory. This is the first time since the previous game that North Florida has been able to play on this field, as there have been extensive renovations to the lighting system here at what has become known as Deadbird Land. And you can actually notice it here as there is some destruction that was caused by the damage, and it is stolen once again by Florida Atlantic. North Florida not having the best of luck with lineouts as of late, both this game and last game. And the ball rolls out of the ruck, and the Florida Atlantic player gets it up for a few yards and takes it to the 50.
Come on!
Stiff arm and taken by a substituted player. It appeared to be number 16, Quentin Knight. And we're going to have a knock-on against Florida Atlantic. Just couldn't bring it in, and then he kicked it. And we're going to get a stoppage of time by the SIR, and both captains being summoned in. I wonder if the chippiness of play, and the SIR is addressing the amount of drops that there have been. And the SIR referring to a slapping motion, which is not allowed in the game. If you purposely slap a ball as if it was a pass deflection in football, it could result in a yellow card, thus 10 minutes on the sideline and your team being down for those 10 minutes. Very good by SIR, Mr. Swallow, for addressing this with both captains before he potentially starts handing out yellow cards. And now both captains bringing their teams in to talk about it. Matt Bueller going to everyone to talk about it. And Florida Atlantic's captain, number 8, Jacob Johnson, bringing his entire team in to address it at once. And yes, I can now confirm that number 16, Quentin Knight, has come in for the Owls. And now we will see a scrum for North Florida. Stalemate, but then it is gotten back to North Florida. Quick run by number 13, Jason Martin. And North Florida looking for the forwards. Bobbled around a little and met immediately once again by Mr. Knight, who is making an immediate impact for Florida Atlantic. Evan Brown staying on his feet for North Florida before he's finally taken down. And it appeared to be taken by Florida Atlantic, maybe, but it was whistled dead. There are a number of things that the whistle could have been for, and it will be a penalty against Florida Atlantic. My guess is that the Florida Atlantic player who attempted to take the ball did not go up the middle or did not keep his feet. You have to stay through the middle in something called the gate, and you cannot come into the side. But whatever it is going to result in a scrum for North Florida. Haven't seen much action out of number 8, Wyatt Dodd, who loves to get the ball. Obviously, he got it once when Mr. Dillon was out of commission, or, excuse me, wasn't able to get to the ball. And it's going to be a huge Florida Atlantic just absolutely dominated it and had Dillon met immediately. The scrummy number 9, Mike Turney, just met Mr. Dylan Nuremberg just so quickly off of the dominance of that scrum by Florida Atlantic. But it will still be a deadbird ball here. Miscommunication, wasn't sure who to pass it to, but ends up in the hands of Lee Setzer, who passes it to Jason. Ball comes out and it will be picked up by Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic inside the 22 of North Florida, and the ball is kicked, caught, and touched down in the try zone by North Florida. Both teams attempted kicks inside their own 22, and it has not worked out for either team. This one in particular, kicked by Florida Atlantic, caught by a North Florida player, and then downed inside the try zone, and we're going to see a scrum at the 5-meter line for Florida Atlantic. Caleb. And I'm being told that the ball was caught and downed by number 14, Caleb Griffith for North Florida. But regardless, it is still going to be an Owl scrum. And once again, neither team has lost a scrum. So Florida Atlantic is in prime position to get 5 points on the board and even tie the game if they make the conversion. Florida Atlantic wins the scrum, taken up, attempting to dump, but unsuccessful by what appeared to be their 9, Mike Turney. And we're gonna have a bit of commotion, but eventually it's gonna stop. And now Florida Atlantic attempting to take it up to their backs. And tried to exploit the fact that there is no defender on the sideline. However, the one defender that has never missed a tackle is the sideline, and Florida Atlantic goes out of bounds, and it will be a line out for North Florida. North Florida yet to successfully get a line out this game as we enter the under 8-minute mark. Of course, the more accurate clock with the Sir, as we will see. Thrown down the middle and taken by North Florida, it appears, downed immediately. And you may have noticed that the Sir, and the ball goes out of bounds, kicked out of bounds by Matt Bueller. You may have noticed that the Sir was putting his hands out. He was telling both teams not to advance until the ball exited the line-out area. Ball went out of bounds off the kick by Matthew Bueller. Since it was not a penalty, it will be a Florida Atlantic scrum. Number 2, Connor Gilks, getting ready to throw in. Successful by Florida Atlantic, who will once again try for the first try of the game. Ball taken by number 12, Zach Kirsten. Now sent by number 6, Mark Finley, who is not coming down. North Florida keeping him up. Florida Atlantic trying to bring him down, and it takes a mountain of people to do so. And look at this, North Florida now with the ball. They have stripped the ball away from the Owls. Deadbirds trying to take the ball, and not many there to protect the forward for the Deadbirds. Number 5, Hayden Wilhelm. Quick run, didn't get far, but here comes Evan Brown, who puts one down, but then gets put down himself. And Florida Atlantic blew up what appeared to be the scrummy Mr. Dillon, but now it's going to be a penalty against Florida Atlantic, possibly not coming through the gate. Matt Bueller kicks it, and it will go out of bounds somewhere between the 10 and the 50 in North Florida territory. Somewhere in the ballpark of 5 minutes left to go. Of course, once again, the accurate clock is with the Sir. The only stoppage so far was by the Sur to address the variety of knock-ons, specifically slaps by both teams. And we're going to get ready here for Christopher to throw it in the out. And down the middle, caught by Mr. Wyatt Dodd, and North Florida is going to send it to their backs. Number 7, Connor Kirk, and Florida Atlantic strips it away. Woo! An amazing stiff arm once again by number 16, Quentin Knight, and we're going to hear a whistle by the Sur. Penalty against North Florida, and it is in possession of their 10, Mr. Alexander DeMonts. And it looks like he's looking to kick for touch and a line out. Kick is up, and it will sail just out of bounds. Both teams have been amazing in the scrums. There is no debate on who is the better team, but in my mind, Florida Atlantic Owls have just absolutely dominated the lineouts. But on their last attempt with the lineout in this deep of territory, they were unable to convert any points, and they're looking to change that and get their first try on the board and possibly tie the game. And attempt quick throw. Ball lands on the ground, and it looks like it may be advantage against North Florida for a knock-on. Florida Atlantic trying to get it out of the line-out area. And a Florida Atlantic player dived in to make sure that the ball was secure. Florida Atlantic now taking it down to their backs and unable to get to it. Could it be a potential interference on North Florida? No, it's not. So there was no penalty, no advantage on Florida Atlantic for a potential knock-on against North Florida. And the Sur is going to play the knock-on against Florida Atlantic, ruling that North Florida did not interfere with the ball, and it will be a scrum for North Florida. Rugby, as is known as organized chaos, and we're seeing plenty of that in today's game. A defensive affair, 10-3 the current score. Both teams pushing, quickly taken by Mr. Dillon, who runs before passing it to Matt. And oh, it's going to be hit by Florida Atlantic. I don't think that was swatted though. Wyatt, some very dangerous passes by the Deadbirds. They have to be very careful. You really do not want to pass it unless you're absolutely certain you can bring it to the man that you're trying to get it to. Outside their 22 now, North Florida, and potential swat, not a knock-on against North Florida. We did see the ball drop, but the Sur's going to let it play on. North Florida looking for some kind of penalty, possibly not going up the middle, but the Sur is going to rule it was going up the middle and is now Florida Atlantic ball. The 9, Mike Turney, fishing the ball out as Florida Atlantic, an attempted dump, a fake attempt by number 12, Zach Kirstein, trying to get the defender to bite, but he was met immediately by 2 Deadbirds. North Florida getting dangerously close to the sideline now, and they're going to pass it back inside to their 1, Ian Walsh. Florida Atlantic, a major hit as the ball came out, and number 11 for Florida Atlantic, and that is a try, number 11, Mike Steffens. And Mike Steffens is going to get Florida Atlantic's first try of the day. And pending the conversion kick, Florida Atlantic could tie the game, just entering halftime. Florida Atlantic, just like North Florida on their previous try, just basically ran the clock, sending it to their forwards until they can see an opening in the back line, and then once they found it, they just went through. And number 11, Mike Steffens, the lucky recipient of a try. And now number 10, Alexander DeMonts, potentially tying the game for Florida Atlantic. DeMonts once again in a bad position, but with the win on his back. Kick is up, and it will be no good. It is wide left. Current score 10-8, and our clock says zeros, but of course the more accurate clock is with the Sir. But we will be entering the last few plays of the half here in Jacksonville. North Florida to kick it off to Florida Atlantic. And if it is the last few plays, I'm probably going to expect this to be a deep kick and all the players on North Florida rushing to get maybe some last-minute points. And if I'm Florida Atlantic, receiving the ball to enter the second half, I'm just looking to run the clock down, maybe kick it out of bounds. And it is caught by Florida Atlantic's Connor Gilks. And Florida Atlantic going to kick it, and it is blocked. And caught by number 1 on North Florida, Evan Brown, who is brought down almost immediately. North Florida, you gotta wonder what they're thinking now. Do you go for a try, or do you think maybe of a conversion? And there goes Matt Bueller making a few men miss before he is met attempting to pass it, but not good. And we're gonna hear a whistle by the Sir and a penalty against Florida Atlantic. Of course, it's gonna be a penalty from that spot. And here comes the trainer out onto the field. I gotta wonder what's going on. Potentially, Mr. Bueller got hit in the head, which is maybe why the trainer ran out on the field. And here comes the 8-man, Wyatt Dodd, who's gonna give it to the 9, Mr. Dillon, who is going to look to kick it out of bounds. And he will. We're going to have a North Florida line out in the waning seconds of the first half. 10-8 the score in their favor. Clearly they were out of range for their 10, Mr. Matt. Obviously, I know he was hit, but you got to wonder if he had the leg, would they have taken the points and put 3 more on the clock? Kick is up. Or excuse me, line out is up, and we're going to hear a whistle and some late action, and the Sir blowing it up immediately. And they're going to say, Sir says it was not straight, but that will end the first half. Current score, North Florida 10, Florida Atlantic 8. We'll go away, but we'll be right back.
Well, because one guy was playing
As we prepare to resume play, the score 10-8 in favor of the Deadbirds. However, Florida Atlantic will receive the kickoff as we begin the second half. The sir asking both captains if they're ready, and here we go. And the ball will not travel 10, and it will be either a re-kick or a scrum. And most teams elect for a scrum since the scrum will be at the 50, and it will be a Florida Atlantic scrum. A great way to start the second half for them. Both teams won every scrum that was in their possession. It's been very even scrum-wise. Some notes to take over into the second half. Very poor ball control. Very good defense, though. Wondering if we're going to expect the same here in the second half. Florida Atlantic winning the first scrum of the second half. Takes it up, trying to dump it to their number 13, Pedro Velez. Sending it to the forwards, number 2, Connor Gilks. Another pod coming. And missed tackle by North Florida. And number 6, Mark Finley, just keeping the wheels going as they get it to number 8, Mr. Jacob Johnson. And North Florida just tackling too high. Florida Atlantic gaining great territory. The momentum swung in their favor as they had a late try. And weird dump off, but it gets to the backs for the Owls, but unfortunately met by North Florida. And we're going to hear a stoppage here. And I got to admit, Mr. Wyatt was a little high on that tackle. And we're going to see no cards. And number 10, Alexander DeMutz for the Owls. Probably going to take the ball immediately since they're so close to the try. Florida Atlantic pushing, shoving, and it is a try for Florida Atlantic, and they get on the board very fast to start the second half. Just a series of unfortunate events for the Deadbirds. The kick did not go 10 meters, so Florida Atlantic elected for the scrum. Some very high tackles, which resulted in a few stiff arms by Florida Atlantic. The wheels just kept turning on some of these players, just continuing to bring their feet up and continue driving for a few extra meters. And then gets it right in the middle for Florida Atlantic. The conversion is up and good. The score with just under 3 minutes into the second half, 10-15 in favor of the Owls.
Let's go, Deadbirds. Come on, boys.
Kick is up, and this time will travel 10 meters. And I do apologize, the man with the horn is directly behind me, so if it was really loud, I am sorry. Florida Atlantic securing possession, and just very difficult to get some of the bigger men down. That was number 1 for Florida Atlantic. And the ball is kicked, caught by number 11, Dez, who stays in, tries to pitch it, and does to number 15, Eli, who will kick it back. And it will be caught and then dropped, but it went backwards. And is now taken by number 15, Jared Powell for Florida Atlantic, who is a North Florida trying to shove him out of bounds, but unable to do so. He gets to the ground. And after 2 quick kicks, we're going to see a settling as Florida Atlantic brings a pod first. Most recent player with the ball, number 1, Ian Walsh. The 9 had some trouble getting the ball. Number 9, Mike Turney.
Look up, boys, look up.
slowly gaining territory. Sending it to the backs now is the Owls, and we're going to hear a whistle. It appeared to be advantage for Florida Atlantic as the serve brings it back to a previous spot. And now here come the North Florida players trying to get onside. And number 10, Alexander DeMonts, getting ready to potentially kick it out of bounds for touch. Kick is up and it will be out of bounds. We will see a line out for Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic absolutely dominating the scrums in the previous half. Will they carry that into the second? It is up and almost taken by North Florida, and the serve will say that they did. And we're going to get a whistle though, and it appeared North Florida came up early. Or no. Yes, sir, that is exactly what happened. Sir is going to say it is a penalty. And another kick for touch by number 10, Alexander DeMonts. Kick is up and out of bounds. Florida Atlantic gaining a lot of territory off of these kicks for touch. Could result in another 5 points, maybe even 7. Big momentum swing so far for the Owls, and we will see if they can capitalize with another try. Line out thrown in by number 2, Connor Gilks. It will be won by Florida Atlantic, who takes it to their back line. Couple quick passes and attempted tackle and pitch successful from number 12, Zach Kirsten, and to number 13, Pedro Velez. Several quick forward tackles. Florida Atlantic just very quickly trying to gain space, trying to do what they did last time, and it appears there will be a hole available. However, no, he is still dancing around, and it will take 3 players to bring down the Florida Atlantic player. A back line of forwards. Ooh, and a crazy stiff arm by number 16, Quentin Knight, against number 8, Wyatt Dodd. And we're going to have a potential high tackle. That was a very, of course, we are unsure if it is advantage or not, and that is going to be a high stiff arm as well. Both teams engaging in some very dangerous behavior. The serve really needs to get on this. Florida Atlantic thought they had the try, but they didn't. And now some quick pick and goes for the Owls. And we're going to hear a whistle. Offside against North Florida.
Talk, boys, talk.
Florida Atlantic looking for the spot, met immediately, and it will be another try for Florida Atlantic. It appeared to be number 6, Mark Finley, into the try. Once again, just taking little steps to gain some space and gain some territory, and then they took advantage of the offside penalty against North Florida, and it's another 5 points for the Owls and a potential 2 more. Kicking the conversion should be number 10, Alexander DeMonts, but I do not see him on the field. There he is. It is a very difficult kick as it is close to the out-of-bounds line. Wind has changed direction, so Florida Atlantic has had the wind for both halves. Kick is up, and it will be good. So that will be 2 more for the Owls. Current score, 10 minutes roughly into the second half, 22-10 for Florida Atlantic, a huge momentum shift. And it is no longer a defensive affair, at least for Florida Atlantic.
Somebody take this back around.
Matthew the Bueller Ellis getting ready to kick it off once again for the Deadbirds. Kick is up, it will go 10. And it is bounced off the chest, but caught by Florida Atlantic. Their 9, Mike Turney, who is now into the ruck. And we're gonna have a kick, and it will stay in bounds. Almost caught by number 9, Dylan. And it is kicked, booted by number 15, Mr. Eli Reynolds, and it will go out of bounds. And it will most likely be a Florida Atlantic lineout. And we're hearing some conversation on the sideline, someone yelling sub. And we are going to see a substitution here into the game for North Florida, number 17, Brandon Poe. If he was not already inserted into the game, and they're still screaming for a sub, so Poe was already in the game. And here we go, substitution for North Florida, and we're also going to get a substitution for Florida Atlantic as well. Out of the game for North Florida, number 4, Ford Setzer. In for North Florida, number 19, Arthur Barbosa. And into the game for Florida Atlantic will be number 19, Alex Donnell. We did not see who came off the field for Florida Atlantic for Donnell, but those are the substitutions at this time. And the sir is knock on called, and it will be a scrum to North Florida. Great position for the Deadbirds if they're looking to swing momentum back in their favor and get 5 points and close Florida Atlantic's lead. Once again, no team has lost their scrum, so if that stands, then North Florida is in prime position, but both teams have failed to capitalize in this area. Both teams pushing hard. It's picked up by the 8-man Wyatt Dodd, who had 2 tries last game, pushing his way in, and he will not get there and is brought down just shy of the try zone. And pass to number 10, Matthew Bueller, who's tackled immediately. And passed back inside by the recently subbed in number 19, Arthur Barbosa. Great defense so far by Florida Atlantic, keeping North Florida out of the try line. And down the line, and it is in for the try. North Florida finding the hole that they needed, and it will be a try by number 15, Eli Reynolds. The knock-on by Florida Atlantic led to a scrum in great position by North Florida, and they attempted to push their way in, but they saw it wasn't working, so they sent it to the backs, who finally found a hole, and then 5 on the board for North Florida. Once again, Bueller getting ready to kick the conversion kick. Wind has slowed, which could be in his favor. Bueller 0-2 on conversion kicks. Not entirely his fault. He was against some very heavy wind. As speaking of, the wind is starting to pick up once again. And we shall see if he converts it or not. Kick is up. And it is good. His first conversion of the game. And it is now 17-22. Still in favor of the Owls, who are up by 1 try, 5 points. And
The score 20.
17-22. Florida Atlantic, number 10, Alexander DeMonts kicks it off. It goes the 10 and caught by number 7, Connor Kurak.
Last one.
North Florida trying to...
Come in, boys.
North Florida has the try, but can they get the momentum back? A high-scoring second half, and it's only been about 15 minutes. North Florida trying to get a man down, but they are having trouble doing so. And we will see, and they have gotten the man down and is now being taken to the backs.
Boys, full speed! Full speed!
Kurak to Dez, who pitches it back to Bueller, who comes down.
Too many, too many.
To Wilhelm, who goes in for the ruck. And now sending it to the backs again is number 9, Mr. Dillon.
Call for it! Run on to it, boys!
North Florida just trying to run a little bit, try to see if they find a hole. Sending it down the backs, and it looks like there will be a hole for some. Kurak fakes the dummy, not brought down, and Florida Atlantic trying to shove him out of bounds, but unable to do so, and North Florida is now in Owl territory. Passes it to number 17, Mr. Brandon. Brandon, right now the team spiritual leader, and they're gonna send it to number 8, Wyatt Dodd, who once again had 2 tries in the last game against UCF, the only scores for North Florida outside of conversion kicks. Florida Atlantic trying to keep the man up if they have the opportunity, but unable to do so as the ball is sent to the backs, and number 13, Jason, is going to keep it. And Florida Atlantic trying to steal the ball. Did they? Yes, no, they did not. And we're going to hear a whistle. Penalty against Florida Atlantic. Here comes Bueller getting ready to kick it out of bounds. Kick is up, and it will go out of bounds, and we will see a North Florida line out. And the tree deflects the ball and keeps anybody from trying to reach, from trying to have to dig deep into the shrubbery here to retrieve the ball. North Florida currently on the Florida Atlantic 22, looking to add 5 to tie the game. Here we go. Up and ends up in the middle, and Florida Atlantic will take the ball back. Not a great day for lineouts once again for North Florida. Florida Atlantic securing possession, and in and out of the hands of number 19, Alex Donnell for Florida Atlantic Owls. But we're going to see an advantage against North Florida, so Florida Atlantic's going to keep the ball. Number 10, Alexander DeMonts getting ready to kick it. Kick is up, and it will go out of bounds, and we will see a Florida Atlantic lineout. Just unfortunate luck for North Florida, who could have used the scrum to get it back in position for them to score, but clearly there was some kind of advantage against them, which is now going to result in a lineout for Florida Atlantic just away from the 50, and they win it without contestment. And they're going to send it to their backs. And tackled, who pitches it back. Florida Atlantic trying to stay away from the sideline. Number 11, Mike Steffens with the ball, and he'll put it around center field. Ooh, and Wyatt Dodd attempted to pick it off, trying to carry some of that momentum from his last game, but just unable to get there. and he better run back, otherwise North Florida is just not going to have enough men to defend. Florida Atlantic running pods, number 7, Carson Stryker with a great run to put them into North Florida territory. And ball is loose and picked up, scooped up by number 6, Mr. Queef. And it may be advantage for North Florida. And Sir's going to blow it dead. And we're going to see what he calls here. And so he is going to take the penalty that resulted in the advantage, a knock-on against Florida Atlantic, and it will be a scrum for North Florida. North Florida just inside their 50. Maybe some trickery here. Maybe send it to the 8-man, Mr. Wyatt Dodd, in order to gain some of the territory back in order to tie the game. Whistle blown. Clearly the Sir saw something inside the scrum that did not look right, and we will get ready to try again. Roughly halfway into the second half, the score 17-22 for the Owls. North Florida with the ball pending the scrum. Deadbirds being pushed back, and the scrum, he can't get the ball, and we're going to hear a whistle. And it's going to be against Florida Atlantic. And we're going to see Matt Bueller come up, and it doesn't look like he's going to kick it out of bounds this time. This time he's going to send it to a pod. Nope, he will send it out of bounds. You can always tell what the fly half's about to do just based on where the ball is. If it's in his hand, he's kicking it. And if it's... Oh, and the ball stays in bounds, picked up by Florida Atlantic, who they drag out of bounds anyway. So pretty much it was like kicking it for touch, except it resulted in some extra seconds being taken off the clock. North Florida struggling with the lineouts as of recent, looking to change that and possibly tie the game. Number 2, Christopher Friend, the hooker that started the first half, continuing in the second. Throws it, and it will be taken by Florida Atlantic again. Florida Atlantic sending it to their backs, looking for some space, and going to get some space. Number 14, Charlie Holder, before he's brought down shy of the 50. And the ball is loose, and it would be a knock-on and picked up by number 17, Mr. Brandon Poe, and sent to the backs by North Florida. Possible advantage. Sent all the way down to number 11, Mr. Dez, who gets on the ground, and North Florida is going to send it to their forwards like number 8, Wyatt Dodd. Matt Bueller dancing a little bit, trying to find an open lane, and dropped but picked up, and they're going to say it went backwards. Sir's going to say it went backwards, and now North Florida's going to have a bit of a ruck here to reassert themselves, maybe send to the forwards for a little bit. North Florida trying to forward it, keeping his feet up is number 3, Gabe Gonzalez. And now Matt Bueller keeping the ball, looking to pitch it, but doesn't. Smart move by Mr. Bueller there. And the 9 will throw it to the back line, but just unable to get anything. And here we go once again to some forwards. North Florida needs to get closer to their support because it's very close to being stolen. Matt Bueller dancing a little bit before being taken down. Florida Atlantic trying some pressure now. And Connor Kurak caught. And there goes Dez trying to dance a little bit, and he will stay in bounds. I'm not sure why the Florida Atlantic defender just wrapped him around and threw him. instead of just shoving him out of bounds, but I digress. And there goes Wyatt Dodd trying to get in for a second game in a row with a try, but unable to do so, and puts himself in terrible position. And there goes North Florida. Oh, terrible throws, but will it be taken by number 14, who throws it, and we're going to see a whistle by the Sir. So there was advantage against Florida Atlantic, which will keep the possession by North Florida. And number 10, Matt Bueller, screaming something. I wonder if he's thinking of kicking it here. North Florida is down by 5, so the try would be more beneficial. However, they would get the ball back if the kick is successful. And they will. They will. Matthew Bueller getting ready to kick a penalty kick, which would decrease the lead down to only 2 points, and they would get the ball back. It would be plenty beneficial for them, but an increased risk, because there's no way that Florida Atlantic could potentially get the ball back unless it comes up short of going out of bounds. Bueller 1-3 on the day for conversions, his first attempt at a penalty. Getting ready to line up with his strong left leg. We will see if it decreases Florida Atlantic's lead even more. Kick is on the way, and it is good! The score now 20-22 for the Owls. Florida Atlantic getting the ball out, and Florida Atlantic going to have a couple substitutions coming into the game, looking to maintain their lead. I actively cannot see who just came into the game. I saw the players, cannot see the numbers. And one of them is number 21, Jaden Covington. And the other one appears to be number 18, Neil Thomas. Florida Atlantic kick. Will it go 10? No, it won't. Sir says that it did not go 10, so North Florida can elect for the scrum. It was very close, and I just heard one of the coaches yell, "Why would you play that?" And I have to agree with him here, because it was very, very, very close. So potentially, Sir may not have called it if it was not touched inside those 10 yards. Deadbirds looking for a lead here, and it's almost immediately won in the scrum. And North Florida looking, and it is stolen by Florida Atlantic. North Florida just unable to get there in time with their support, and Florida Atlantic just took the ball away. Florida Atlantic sending it to their backs. And they're going to shove them out of bounds, and the ball is going to roll out of bounds. With the ball for Florida Atlantic was number 11, Mike Steffens. But the Sir's going to say it's Florida Atlantic ball. Not sure what the call was there, potentially another advantage, or maybe he saw that the ball hit the hand of a North Florida defender. I'm not sure, but the ball will go out of bounds and will be another line out for the Owls. Roughly 11 minutes left to go in the game. The score 20-22 in favor of Florida Atlantic. Really exciting game here in Jacksonville, and a beautiful day for rugby. A not so beautiful day for North Florida's lineout team. And another win for Florida Atlantic. Number 13, Mr. Jason, attempted to take the ball away as he was in the air, but unable to do so. With the ball for Florida Atlantic, number 15, Jared Powell. And North Florida looking for a pod here, taken by their hooker, number 2, Connor Gilks. Fake pod, and it is sent to the backs. And a not-so-great throw still picked up by Florida Atlantic. Ooh, absolutely runs a man over. It was number 13, Pedro Velez. Florida Atlantic more back work, and dancing a little bit is number 15, Jared Powell. Florida Atlantic pretty much using all the space they can before sending it to the other side. And now it is taken by the recently subbed in number 21, Jaden Covington. And there was a little confusion and now a penalty against North Florida. And Alexander DeMonts, the fly half for Florida Atlantic, pointing toward the sideline. It appears he will kick for touch. Kick is up, and it will go out of bounds, and we are going to see another Florida Atlantic line out. Number 2, Connor Gilks, getting ready to throw in for the Owls. Sir telling the players not to advance, and it will be to their second line, and they will send it down to the backs. Tackle immediately by number 10, Matt Bueller, but maintained by Florida Atlantic. Taken up by number 1, Ian Walsh, who will gain a massive amount of room. North Florida just unable to tackle him. You gotta wonder if they could have gone lower with the tackles for North Florida. Number 8, Jacob Johnson with the ball, brought down by North Florida. Deadbirds trying to keep Florida Atlantic from gaining an even larger lead as we enter the less than 10-minute mark. As we enter the less than 8-minute mark, and we're gonna hear a whistle from the Sir, and it will be penalty against North Florida again. A bit of confusion by Florida Atlantic, a few of the players frustrated, but the 10 is going to keep it and send it to a pod. You can hear one of the coaches screaming on the sideline because it is just so quiet. You hear very little communication from either team, but of course, I don't see anything going on that would warn any talk on the line, and we're gonna hear a whistle. And here we go. North Florida on the goal line, not a try yet. And now it's a try. Florida Atlantic puts 5 on the board. And it appeared to be it was apparently number 5, Jonathan Adcock. Jonathan Adcock with the try for Florida Atlantic. Once again, just taking advantage of the spot of the penalty. And a couple quick forward dives, and next thing you know, 5 on the board for Florida Atlantic, and now they could be up by 2 possessions if the conversion kick is good. North Florida down by 7 with roughly 6 minutes left to go. 20-27 the score in favor of the Florida Atlantic Owls. Alexander DeMonts has an interesting kick coming up, because if he misses, North Florida's only down by 1 possession, but if he makes it, it's much more manageable to keep the lead and thus potentially win the game. Wind coming from north-south. Kick is up and it will be low and good. Just barely makes it, and now Florida Atlantic has a 9-point lead. And we have a new scrummy in for North Florida after the substitution. Number 20, Christopher Newton, now the scrum half for the Deadbirds. Gotta wonder if that will help the team. And we're gonna have, ball went right through the hands, bounced off his leg, and it will be a scrum for North Florida. Knock on Florida Atlantic. In spite of a 2-possession lead, North Florida not out of the woods yet. Still plenty of time to work with in my mind. So if they can get a quick try, they can get back, and Florida Atlantic will have to kick it to them. So regardless, there is still a possibility they can win, but it all just comes down to things working out in their favor. Newton throwing in the scrum, and it went through the middle, and we're going to hear a stoppage whistle. If the ball goes through the middle of the scrum, the Sir will blow it up, and we will, looks like, have a re-scrum for North Florida. And we're going to hear a whistle, and I'm thinking it was because the ball did not go in and the props were pushing. You cannot push in a scrum until the ball goes in. It is very dangerous if you do it without the ball in there. So the Sir going to the other side, going to monitor the props, and we're going to see the 3rd attempt at this scrum. So far working out, and Bueller tackled almost Newton tackled almost immediately, but he got up and continued to go. And here's a whistle. And it's going to be penalty against Florida Atlantic. I gotta wonder what North Florida is thinking here. The lineouts have not been working out. Do you risk it again? And they will. Ball up, and it is out of bounds, and we will have a kick for touch for North Florida. A risky move, but even if it's not successful, Florida Atlantic is backed up to their try line, and potentially they can get the ball back there either from them kicking or even from a multitude of ways that could occur. But all it comes down to is Christopher Friend's throw. Here comes the throw, and it's won by Florida Atlantic, and we're going to get a whistle for, it's going to be a whistle and a penalty in favor of North Florida. And this time, I guarantee you, they're not kicking it out of bounds because they're so close to the try line. And Bueller throws it to Friend. Florida Atlantic backed up to their line. Newton throws it. Appeared to be taken by Mr. Queef, if I'm not mistaken. No score yet, and Connor trying to come down, and he was held up, but now back 10 against, penalty against Florida Atlantic. Mr. Newton tried to get it in as quick as possible, unable to do so. Maybe some quick pickups to follow. Sir looking to see if they are in or not. And it is a try for North Florida. Just under a minute left to go. North Florida 25, Florida Atlantic 29. Lead once again can be limited to 2 pending the Matt Bueller kick. We were unable to see who scored the try for North Florida, but the penalty that occurred in the lineout resulted in just the quick passes up the middle, just a run up the middle, and then it eventually worked out and North Florida was able to score. Our clock says that time is winding down, but we are going to see what the sir says, because there could be an extra few seconds, maybe even a minute on the clock. Kick is up, and it is good by Mr. Bueller. And that's going to end the game. Final score from Jacksonville, North Florida 27, Florida Atlantic 29. A hard-fought battle for both teams. I don't think there's anything for these teams to be ashamed of. First half was very defensive. A lot of great tackling from both teams, but a shift of momentum, a last-second scrum by Florida Atlantic, shifted momentum into halftime, and very quickly it became Florida Atlantic's game. North Florida, however, stayed behind them at almost all times, attempting to come back. But unfortunately, in the end, there was just not enough time. Once again, final score 27-29 from Jacksonville. We thank you for watching today's game, and we hope you have a good day.